Let's fuck! I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort.
A Hollywood producer, very famous woman, had been reading the pages as I was writing them. Slipped the pages to Martin, to Leo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and Mark Wahlberg, and the bidding war started. They all wanted it, and it came down to Leo and Brad Pitt. My agent and lawyer called me, like, you ready for this? I'm like, what? There's a bidding war right now. Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are in a bidding war over the rights to play you. I'm like, what? And the bidding went up and up and up. And finally, Leo got Marty Scorsese involved. Says, hey, Marty wants to direct. And I was like, wow. You know, and I loved Leo. Leo always in my mind was the better choice anyway. And it's a lot better to have Leo play it than Danny DeVito, right?
Yeah, that's when you got to look in the mirror like, fuck, man.
We got a bidding war.
No offense, Danny.
It's
but
Mark Wahlberg and Leo DiCaprio and Danny DeVito.
Sorry, Danny. You're talented as hell, but, you know, I do want to get laid.
What is cannabis doing for you?
Put some dog tags together, man.
This is how we do things here. Don't get all looky on that.
Quaaludes.
I'd like to take a few of these guys to. What did you say it does, Brian?
Just helps with our creative energy. So.
What is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's just mint, man. Those are our ludes.
Too bad they're not. I'd take 3 right now. We have some milk on it. 3, boom.
All right, guys. Hey, listen. Welcome back to PV Unfiltered. We are, I think, this guy's not going to say any different. Still the #1 cannabis podcast in the nation. #1. And we are sitting here with the wolf. Not just the Wolf of Wall Street, but now the Wolf's Den.
The real wolf. The real wolf's den.
Actually, the real wolf. Jordan Belfort.
How are you?
Thank you. Thank you, man. I mean, can't believe you made this drive down.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
So let's get the typical shit out of the way. Does anybody want to talk about the normal shit that this guy's done and been through so we can get that out of the way and talk about what he's doing now? Anybody? Anyone?
I mean,
No. Did you see
where
that?
do you even start on that?
I did a lot of drugs, made a lot of money, I got in a lot of trouble, I lost it all and made it back again. And along the way I met Tommy Chong, who was on your podcast recently.
Exactly.
And by the way, I'm
Tommy.
a big fan of Tommy Chong. So I'll tell you a great story about Tommy Chong. So Tommy and I were actually bunkmates. Not in the same prison, we were bunkmates in the same prison. We shared a little cube together, and the first few nights, you know,
Was that out of just complete random?
well, they put us. We were both famous. So they put us together in the same cell to watch us, right? You know, and we would tell each other stories. Because what do you do when you're in jail? You have a lot of time on your hands, right? So I'm telling Tommy stories, and he's rolling on the floor hysterically every night. You know, the third night he comes to me, and goes, you know, I thought you were making this shit up, but my wife Googled you, and it's all true. Because you have to write a book. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, write a book. People will love it. I'm like, wow, okay. And he convinced me to write the book. And I started writing. I had no experience in writing. And first few pages, I thought they were okay. And I showed them to Tom. I said, what do you think? He goes, those really suck. I'm like, oh, thanks, Tommy. Tell me what you really think. Yeah. And
Had you met him before?
no, I watched his movies. I was a fan. And then, but ultimately, you know, Tommy gave me a really great tip when it comes to writing. And that tip guided a lot of my style, which was, he called it the most of. People want to read about the most of. So if you're making money, you're making the most money. If you're doing drugs, you're doing the most drugs. So the idea is, you know,
There's some truth there.
And that was really the story of my life. So it was about pick the moments that really represented the most of. And then I eventually taught myself to write while I was in jail and came out, wrote the book, and all things happened from there. And then Tommy and I retained the friendship. He's been on my podcast, The Wolf's Den. I've seen him socially. He's a great guy, really great guy.
I mean, how funny is it that you're getting tips on writing a book from Tommy John. I mean, I get that was, you were limited to resources in jail or prison.
Tommy's a very smart guy.
He's a very smart guy, but it's just funny when somebody says, yeah, I was getting tips on how to write a book from Tommy John.
I know.
Because he's only known in the limelight that he built.
Yeah,
You know, so
he's one of the nicest people. I got to say, he was nice to everybody. He wasn't just me. He was really kind to everybody and very, very philosophical. I'm sure you realize that by having him on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of knowledge built up over many years of living an interesting life. And I have a lot of respect for him.
how much time did you guys spend together?
About a year.
So that's a
Yeah.
decent amount of time when you're nonstop together.
Yeah, it was, and it made honestly, it made it better. I mean, having someone like Tommy there made it at least. I didn't feel like I was, wasting the time. I had someone interesting to be with, and I learned a lot from him. So it was a really great experience.
He had. I mean, when we were talking, so originally on the podcast, that they said, hey, likes to keep it around 30 minutes. Don't go. I mean, I was like, dude, are we ever going to end here? When I was with him, we were shooting the shit. It was just, there was no like, oh, I'm done at 30.
Yeah.
But it was a blast. But he had a lot of great things to say. And the funny thing is he kind of said the same thing in his stint that he had there. He was like, dude, it was like vacation. Like I just made the best of it. And of course, having you as a bunkmate in there, made things fun, I guess. And his words were, until you got a little upset with him because he told you your writing sucked.
I told you, yeah.
He did, but he said he kind of made up for it afterwards when you drove by and said, look, fucker, they just bought this.
No, well, because of that, though, he urged me to go and work on my writing. And what happened was I stumbled upon a book called Bonfire of the Vanities by Tom Wolfe. And I read this book and said, wow, I want to teach myself to write like that. I taught myself in jail to write like Tom Wolfe. That was my style.
Did you come up with the Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Like did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with stuff like that, like you spent all that time, had a lot of time to reflect. Did you start to create a game plan for the out? Like, was there any thoughts of like, this is what I want to be when I'm out? You know what I mean? Like, this is what I want to do.
No, it wasn't like that. So there are many ways to make money, and probably the least way to make the least amount is to write a book. So like it just so happened that it turned into this cult hit. But for me, it was more about, as I was writing the book in jail, it was more about trying to make sense of what had happened and not to waste the time that I had when I was in jail. So I said, at least I'm going to teach myself a skill.
Be productive.
I'm going to teach myself a skill. And, in my mind, I'd say I'm going to make this into a big bestseller. And I thought, it was sort of like, just like a vision I had. I always want to at least, think where I'm going, what I'm doing things for. But I never had the idea that I'm going to write this book and Leonardo DiCaprio is going to play me in a movie and Scorsese is going to direct it. And that was great, but then
did you like the movie?
I loved the movie.
Sorry,
I loved it. Yeah, but the thing about the movie is that movies come and go, but not this one.
Dude, everyone knows it.
Yeah.
It's like
Never left.
It was just on the other night.
I know, like it's just a weird thing. And it's like it's on top bestseller hits on iTunes again. It's really weird. It's like they created a cult classic.
How accurate is it?
It's very accurate in some respects, and in some respects, it's not. I mean, the things that are not accurate don't really matter.
Right.
In other words, they're more about like
the idea and
collapsing time, for example, like collapsing certain events into other characters. So it's really more, they had like for example, the Donnie character, right? He got the worst of everything. Like anything was bad, give it to Donnie. He did it. So it was like 4 or 5 people represented the actions of that character.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But there weren't things in there that never happened. It wasn't like that. There was a couple of fictional scenes there that were just pretty cool, but they just sort of tied the narrative together. But nothing that would really that changed the feeling of the movie at all.
Well, so Quaalude and Steve Madden, is that legit?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely.
That's one of my favorite scenes. We were just watching it this morning.
Yeah, so I mean, Steve Madden, but again, the Steve Madden stories actually
Crazy.
was more interesting than the movie. They made it seem like Steve was an established company. It wasn't. Steve Caton was a startup. Right. He had one shoe. And I was the founding investor, and I owned the majority of the company.
Okay.
And then we took it public and so on. So it was a really long-running story. And actually, in that one scene in the movie where I say, I'm leaving, I got to go, then I say, fuck it, I'm not leaving, I'm staying. That never happened. I actually left and ran Steve Madden's shoes. So
Okay.
my other
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's my other company. So yeah, so I worked.
Wow.
So I worked in Steve Madden for about 2.5 years, and but I was
guy.
still running Stratton from behind the scenes, more or less, for at least for the first year or so, and then I kind of lost connection with it. But I understood in the movie the reason they did that is because the boardroom was such a fun place to film. They just wanted to milk that. But for the most part, the movie was very accurate.
Now going back for a quick second, because Tommy had some funny stories that he kind of let out on the prison side of it. Did you have anything that other than Tommy? You know, he's got his Steve story about his guy out in the yard, the big white power on the back, and you know,
I know Steve.
yeah. So he had kind of had that story. Did you have anything that you took out of there as like a really funny?
Yeah, there was characters. We had one guy named David who was the cook. He was our chef or our butler, the butler. And David, and when I first went in there, Tommy's like, "Listen, if David offers you like a dish with like rice and like what looks like chicken, don't eat it because it's squirrel. He's catching these fucking squirrels." The guy, he was trapping.
Seriously.
He was trapping squirrels and eating squirrels. This guy had been in jail too long. Yeah. So, you know, there was a lot of interesting characters. I think that, you know, like the thing with Tommy is that, you know, he was there for the most ludicrous reason. He was there for selling bongs.
I still don't understand.
Right? And I was like, and he got a year. And I got like, you know, I was like 2 years. I'm like, fuck, he got a year. She got like 1,000 years for what I did compared to if he got a year. It's like, I was like, oh my God. Like,
What'd the guy do or get that was selling squirrel? Or
he was
cooking squirrels.
Drug runner and who had been in jail for 25 years.
Oh shit!
And what happens is that we were
that was a pound of marijuana.
Yeah, we were
back in the day.
we were in a minimum security prison camp, right? No bars, no fences. People walked away, and you could walk away, and people did. And what happens though is people who are in jail for a long time, they start to work them down as they're getting close to release. So when they have like 5 years or less left, they'll go to a minimum. They'll go to what's called a low, and then when there's under 2 years, they go to a minimum security. So you're transitioning back into the real world. So I met this guy, David, who was working as like our butler basically there, and you pay him like 3 cans of tuna fish a month, and that would be it for a butler. And he would just, you know, do everything for you, bring you coffee in the morning and whatever it might, clean your room and so forth. And he was also trapping squirrels in his spare time.
I can't even get that shit now.
Yeah.
And then I mean, other things that had some really interesting things happen. I actually went on Con Air, which sucked moose cock, by the way. I had to get flown across the country, which was terrible. So I did that, and I stopped in Oklahoma. And other than that, once I was in jail, it wasn't bad. It was a minimum security, and it was kind of fun, but you're still in jail. You know, it's still... Listen, it's jail sucks, but it wasn't like I was worried about getting butt fucked that, you know, didn't shower. It wasn't like that. Yeah. I didn't have that fear, but other than that, it was all good, you know.
Wow. I mean, that's one of those things that you don't realize until you're talking to people that how the levels go.
Yeah.
You know, in prison. Tommy did have a story about the squirrels too. He said they're pretty fat squirrels over there.
Yeah,
that's what he said. He said they were really fat.
He didn't talk about. Did he say that they were being cooked in the microwave?
He didn't mention that side of it. Not at all. But
I'm filling in the missing pieces here.
Yeah.
So obviously, very interesting story. If anybody doesn't know it, then they must be living in a fucking hole somewhere with their head really deep. But so more so, I want to talk about where you at now. What's going on? Like, so you get out.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like...
So what happens is I get out of jail, and I had written about 100 pages while I was in jail, and I ripped them up. I didn't think they were good enough. So when I got out, I started on page 1 again, and I started writing it, and I thought my writing was much better. Just working on a computer, also having my head clear, and I started...
Hold on. Question. So you come out of this lifestyle, all this shit going on. I mean, and I've seen some of your stuff. Like you say, this is it. And as Tommy was saying, dude, it was more than what you were saying in the beginning. So you go into prison. Does that timeline, it calms you down, kind of brings you obviously a little more
the
grounded?
Partying, the everything.
You know?
I got sober before. So I got sober in 97. So way before that.
Okay.
So I was already calm already. So
that's what I wonder. Like you're sitting out and writing a book. I mean, you're still just off this
Yeah, no, there was a 5 year. I got sober in 97, went to jail in 2004.
Gotcha.
So I was 7 years sober. And also, like I had been, that was that. And most of the insanity ended with the drugs. It really did. And I'm a very different person when I'm on 3 grams of blow and 5 ludes, like most people.
Ironically.
Shocker there, right?
Well, most people, it's a quarter gram of blow and half a lewd.
Yeah. Well, I think what's worth doing is worth doing right, Yeah. Nothing succeeds like excess, right? So anyway, I started writing this book, and as soon as I got to page 7 or 8, I sent the pages to an agent, and they started reading the book, and just the reaction I got was pretty shocking. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is really good." I'm like, "Really?" And I was really surprised, And then it was from a bunch of people read these first 7 or 8 pages, and they asked me to write 10 more. I wrote 10 more pages, and I sent it to the agent. He's like, "You have to stop everything you're doing and write this book."
No shit.
Because your life is never going to be the same.
What were you doing at that time?
Nothing.
Like when you come out, are you
I just got out of jail. He goes, just whatever.
financially? Are you anywhere financially?
No, I had no money. I was getting started over again. No money.
Fuck.
So I started.
At what age?
I was 41, 42.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But I
never worried. That was never the issue. In other
you
words,
can make money when you know how to make money.
I never was concerned about making money. Yeah. So that's why it's just, writing a book and becoming wealthy again was a circuitous route for me. I could have much easily gotten rich just starting a business. I just, got caught up in this whole book. And as I started writing it, the publishers started seeing the book and they started bidding on it. And, it was one of those weird things.
How'd you feel like that?
Yeah, isn't it insane
shocking.
thinking like
It was pretty
just
shocking.
What you lived through?
I sold the book by the time I was on page 50. And, for it was like $500,000, right? And it was a lot of money for a book back then. And finished the book in about 9 months, 10 months. And as soon as the book was finished, like within a matter of a week, a Hollywood producer, very famous woman, had been reading the pages as I was writing them.
Somebody was giving them on the side?
No, we became friends. My agent had slipped us some early pages, and she was like, "Oh my God, I love this." Everyone was saying this book was going to be something special as I was writing it, and she slipped the pages to Leo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and Mark Wahlberg, and the bidding war started. They all wanted it, but George Clooney was out of town. Mark Wahlberg wasn't as big of a star back then. Now he is, right?
Man, yeah, that would.
And it came down to Leo and Brad Pitt.
Fuck,
so my lawyer, my agent and lawyer called me, and they're like, "It's Friday night, 6:00. They're like, "You ready for this?" I'm like, "What?" There's a bidding war right now. Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are in a bidding war over the rights to play you. I'm like, "What?" And everyone and the funny thing is, I was like, "What?" But anyone who knew me said, "Yeah, of course that would make sense." Like my life had always been kind of weird like that, but it was still an amazing thing. And then over that weekend, each side said, "Whatever they pay, we'll pay 10% more." And the bidding went up and up and up. And finally, Leo got Marty Scorsese involved. Says, "Hey, Marty wants to direct." And I was like, "Wow," and I loved Leo. Leo always in my mind was the better choice anyway.
Had you known him?
No, I didn't know him.
And in your previous life, did you party with any of these famous people or anything?
But not Leo or so. I sold the book to Leo.
Like that would take on that persona, because now someone he's going to be known for. He's really known for.
Yeah. So Leo was what really happened was Leo was like, "This is my passion project. I don't want to just play you. This is the role I was destined for." He was like, this is for me, this is my role. I must play this character, right?
How was he working with?
Amazing guy. Nicest guy ever. Honest, great. Everything good to say about Leo. He really is a great guy. And it's a lot better to have Leo play you than Danny DeVito, right?
Yeah, that's when you got to look in the mirror like, fuck, man.
No
we got a bidding war.
No offense, Danny.
It's Mark Wahlberg and Leo DiCaprio and Danny DeVito.
Sorry, Danny. You're talented as hell, but I do want to get laid.
I quit writing. I'm done.
So I sold to Leo, and the next day on that Monday, you could still Google this. It's still on the internet. There's this whole big thing. with, there's a Leo and Brad with like enemies bidding, and it was completely untrue. Like they were not enemies; they were just bidding on the same project.
Yeah.
And they made it like neither had won an Oscar yet. Who's going to win? It was really terrible. They made this whole big thing, and the next day the book sold in like 45 countries. Because of this article that Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt were bidding,
blew it up.
It blew the book up before it was even printed. It was not even printed yet. It was just a manuscript, right? So by the time so then the publisher said we want a second book. So they paid me now because of $1 million for the second book, right? So I was like, "Fuck, this is going pretty well so far."
He went from this. Ching.
I was like really weird,
And
yeah.
I was like,
And then so the problem is I hated writing. I don't like to write. And I developed something.
You like to read?
Yeah, I'm okay. I love to read. I love to speak.
Yeah.
And I developed a skill at a very, very high level that I hate using. I write as good as anybody. I do. I'm a really good writer. I know I am. I hate doing it.
Right.
And I don't say it to be cocky. It's just from a really good writer. I just hate writing. So I found myself in the second book, and I wrote that book, and then it was it was still early enough in the game that I really had nothing else going on. And then what happened was when the book finally came out in 2007, as soon as it came out, this famous screenwriter, Terry Winter, penned the first version, and usually it takes like 6-7 versions. This guy nails the first version. It's like unbelievable. Everyone loves this version, and they greenlight it at Warner Brothers. And it was like 2007, and I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm going to be like so famous. I can't believe this is happening. Like, how did this happen? Like, how did this happen? From going from jail to this, right? So anyway, long story short, they're about to go into production, and the writer's strike hits. Remember the writer's strike back in Hollywood? Yeah. And they can't finish the script. They can't polish it. And Leo and Marty go off and do Shutter Island instead. And I'm devastated.
Oh, so that was a big time period then.
Yes. And then what happens then, 2008, the GFC, Global Financial Crisis, hits. And I was working on a third book now, and no one would buy it because no one was buying anything. You couldn't sell anything for a bent nickel back then, right? Yep. And I had another top Hollywood writer wanted to do the screenplay at Universal, and couldn't. It was crazy, right? So I was with my wife at the time. We're sitting in a car, and I called my agent, the book agent. I said, I think, I spoke to him. I think I want to start speaking. And he says to me, well, that's great. He goes, you have to wait, though, until the movie comes out and they come for you. And I was like, you motherfucker. Fuck. I was like, wait till they come for me? I was like, and that got me so angry. And because it goes against everything I stand for in business and life. You know what I'm saying? I make my own success. I don't wait for anyone to give me or hand me anything, right? So I just consciously made this decision to go into the speaking world. And it was really about motivational stuff like that, right? And that's all I stuck to. Now, I had this system of teaching salespeople how to become expert closers. It was called the Straight Line. That was really what was behind all the success at Stratton. And it was a famous system, of not well known at the time, but very famous among people who would use it because it was really powerful, right? And it worked for anybody. So what happened was, in the beginning when I went out there, I was just doing motivational stuff, and it was fun. I was making a little bit of money, and then a friend of mine had hired me to do something in England to motivate his troops or whatever. And he had the worst sales force ever. I'm like, hey, you want me to help you? Want me to help you retrain your sales force? He was like, yeah, it'd be great. He goes, can I tape it? And I'm like, sure. And so he sets up the tape recorder, and I had 15 people there. And I start teaching this group, this system called the Straight Line. And about 2 minutes in, my friend's his face dropped. He's like, and after I was done, for the first hour, he's like, what the fuck are you doing teaching this stupid motivational stuff? Because you got to teach this. Because people you'll make hundreds of millions of dollars teaching this stuff. And I was like,
this was early days of
very early, yeah,
YouTube and any of that.
And I had a limiting belief myself about because I got into so much trouble with the whole thing of I had all these kids I turned into closers, and the ethics were not there always. And I had a limiting belief. I said, I don't know if I want to do this. But what happened was somehow these tapes got out of this of me doing this training. Anyone that would see this tape would call me and say, I want you to come train my sales force. It was that powerful. It was revolutionary because no one knew about it back then. It was a very powerful system. So I finally said, and the universe is calling me, and I pivoted and started teaching sales. And as soon as I did that, I started making massive sums of money again, like instantly. And then what happened was, so about 3 years after that, now I'm making a lot of money. I'm wealthy again. And Leo calls me and goes, guess what? The movie is ready to go. It's now 2011, right?
Had you pretty much
this is like a 4 or 5 year process.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So he goes, I'm gonna come over. Let's talk. And now when Leo came over to my house the last time, I lived in a tiny apartment in Manhattan Beach, right? And now he comes back 4 years later, living in a giant mansion on the water. And he walks. He's like, "What the fuck happened?"
Yeah. Did you make a movie without me?
Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito stepped in.
And exactly. And I said, "Oh well." I started going into speaking. I'm doing seminars. I'm teaching people how to close. And he's like, "Show me. I want to see." And I show him the videos. He's like, "Holy fucking shit!"
That even sounds like him.
Yeah.
He said, Marty is going to go crazy. And he sent Marty the videos of me teaching sales. And they changed the entire third act of the movie. The whole movie changed because of Marty seeing what my life had become. And rather than the movie ending as it did in the original draft, it ended with me in jail. They brought it forward to a comeback story, which ended with me on stage teaching sales. And the movie became a veritable commercial for my business. So when the movie came out, my business just went parabolic, and then it made it a much better movie too, because it kind of made it to sort of rise, fall, and re-rise, and people love a comeback story. And when the movie came out, it was a big hit. But what happened was it was a big hit, and then left the theaters, whatever, right? And then like a year later, something weird started happening. It never died. And like people start,
when they get shelved.
No, my daughter was in college. She goes, Dad, there's people dressing up as you for Halloween. I'm like,
Became
what?
like a commodity.
Right.
People,
So I'm
It's a
like,
cult classic.
yeah. So I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, there's people dressing up as you, and everyone's throwing Wolf of Wall Street parties. I'm like, really? And she goes,
Don't you go to any of those parties.
About a month later, she calls me. She goes, Dad, I'm in Michigan now at Ann Arbor Stadium. Listen. And she holds the phone up.
They're doing the.
There's a song called Jordan Belfort.
Yeah.
That's the #1 hit in the history of all. And some kid wrote a song about me, Jordan Belfort, and and that was it. The movie just developed into this, probably the greatest cult hit or top 2 or 3 cult hits of all time.
Yeah.
And it gets bigger every year, because what happens is it's a coming of age movie. So
There you go on the
what I
screen.
noticed with my business, which is really interesting, is when the movie first came out, and you go into the audience, and the people in their 20s, and there's some fans, but now it's like they all grew up with the movie, and they're like raving fans, and they know every line. They've studied my sales training stuff, because I give a lot of it away for free, and it just turned out to be just a shocking experience that never ends. And at this point, no matter what I do, it's big. It's much bigger than me at this point, in the sense that like when Messi was going to leave Barcelona, I think they had this like meme going out there of Messi saying, "I'm not leaving." Yeah. Like it was his face on the. And then like last week they were closing the bars in London at 10:30, right, because of COVID. They said now it's not. I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving.
So like everything about the movie becomes like a meme now, and it's.
Have you talked to Leo since?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's a great guy, and it was just. And he's like says, I can't, because I never could imagine like that. Like everywhere I go. Like they'll still to this day they'll say Leo in the Wolf. They'll always say they'll describe Leo DiCaprio. Yeah. They'll say they'll pick that as his movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though
crazy?
That's what I mean. Like he took on that persona, and now
did.
forever he's
so
not
amazing.
that it's a bad thing. Like,
No,
that's
just
what he's known for now.
Yeah,
it's not Titanic anymore.
It's it's Wolf of Wall Street.
Now think about that. I mean, Titanic.
I think the largest grossing movie besides Avatar or something.
Yeah. So interesting. So the Wolf of Wall Street was interesting in grossing for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was Scorsese's largest box office hit ever. More importantly, it was the #1 most illegally downloaded movie in the history of illegally downloaded movies. You know why? Because I'll tell you why. Because it was all these different countries that censor curses. And so if you go to like Dubai or Pakistan, the movie's like 30 minutes long. It's like you watch the opening credits. There's like a song, and then it's hello, and it's over, right?
Yeah.
So like people couldn't see the real movie because there was so much cursing.
God.
And so the movie ended up having the most downloads in history.
The pirating side of it.
The piracy. So the movie is watched. It's
on
watched.
screen.
The Wolf of Wall Street trumps Frozen for piracy. No, it's unbelievable. It was like, and so what happened was and then it just kept going and going on and on and on, and it just every year it gets bigger and bigger. And now I'm doing things like we're going to be doing a docuseries, they're doing a TV series.
Yeah. It's all becoming big now
Broadway show.
How many times have you watched it?
I watched it probably. I love the movie, by the way. I don't like the ending as much.
Oh, you should. You should.
I watched it probably a dozen times over the years, different because I got many times I got paid to watch it. Like someone say that I got companies they want to like, oh, come watch it, and we'll pay you $250,000 to just sit and watch it. Like, oh, yeah, $250,000.
All right, here I go.
$50,000, no,
never do
$250,000.
this.
Yes,
How long did it take to make the movie? And are you pretty involved during the whole time? Like
I was very, very involved. In
Some people just say, "Okay, this is my story," and walk away.
Very, very involved with every word that was in the script. Every word was rewritten by me. So the script was written by Terry Winter, and it was phenomenal. I polished that script for like authenticity. But Terry deserves 100% of the credit for that. I just took his great work. He took my book, and then he made it into a great script. And I took his great script and polished it to make sure it was authentic, especially the Wall Street and the sales scenes and all that sort of stuff. And it was a great experience. And Leo was intimately involved in every single word. Every word of every character.
Was there things that like just couldn't be put in there? Like, I mean,
yeah,
you went through
yeah.
a lot of just
Yeah, it was a lot
dirty
of stuff.
stories, like things that
I mean, it was pretty good.
No, there's a lot of
and
stuff.
I've watched interviews with you and that kind of stuff, and you
There's some
did
stuff
stuff
in
with
there.
like Logan Paul and all that, telling stories like that, and it's like, so there were things that just couldn't make that cut. Did it open up your mind? Like, I mean, those are years that you either remember, don't remember.
And the stuff, the Logan Paul stuff was about my bachelor party, right? And that was pretty raunchy, pretty raunchy, right?
Yeah.
And but there was other things as well that didn't make it in for legal reasons, like some stuff with bribing politicians.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
And sort of stuff like that, everyday things like that.
But
Like,
did it make you rethink everything? Just like, holy shit! Like, this is what I went through. Like, you.
well, yeah. I mean, I think that
It opened your mind back.
I was certainly, as I was writing the book, I would be like, I used to go out and write. I didn't write in home because it was put me to sleep. So I used to go out to like coffee bars and whatnot. There was this one place called Novel Cafe where writers would go, and I was writing this book. There's all these frustrated writers because very few ever sell anything, right? And I'm writing there. I already had the book sold. So so I kind of was in a different level than they were in the sense that
most aren't.
and they're really all struggling writers, and I already had made this huge sale. So I'm like writing on the house's money right now, and they're all trying to sell a script or sell a book, right? And I'm writing
Keep in mind, you're able to go places right now. Nothing has taken place as far as you being known.
No, I'm unknown still.
You can walk into Starbucks,
right?
and write.
So I'm
whatever.
writing. So I'm people afterwards. So many people were interviewed. I remember he was writing, right? So, but the best part was in this one place, Novel Cafe. Like I was writing these scenes and I was like giggling to myself because I'm like, and they're like, look at what a fucking. They're like, fuck him, what an idiot. He thinks his writing is so funny. Like, they were like hating on me. Like they were like,
it sparks those
sneering
memories,
at me.
though.
Yeah,
Like,
but there's a lot of stuff as the book in some way made me a much better human being. It really did because it gave me a very deep insight into my faults and frailties. It did, and the things that drove me to make some of the mistakes I made. So when I was done writing the book, I felt like I had a very deep understanding of what really made me who I was, and to do the things I did, good and bad.
yeah, absolutely.
So it was a positive experience, like it's almost therapy in a way.
Because at a certain point, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about like you had something in your head. You were driven towards a goal.
It was in terms of it wasn't about money per se, but what happened was. And a lot of people who have been through a similar situation, whether it ended up going bad or not, you're sometimes you feel like you're almost like on a ship and you can't get off. It's like you're on a path, and you feel like there's no way out. You're almost doing it for everyone else, not even yourself. And a lot of times I felt like that. I really
We had
did.
a lot of people that.
Yeah, a lot of people. The firm was massive, thousands of people working there. Everyone was making so much money, and it was just bigger. The idea became bigger than me. It started off as was my idea, and this place that kids can go, and whether or not you had a formal education or not, you can go get rich there. And it was like sort of competing with what was going on Wall Street, and it was an amazing place in the beginning, and then it just sort of took on a darker turn over the years as it spiraled out of control. Yeah.
Was there anything in the movie that was not in the movie that you wish was? Like anything, like a gap that you're like, hey, that could have filled that in?
Well, there was some things that I wish were better explained in the movies. One thing was my descent into drug addiction and insanity was very much exaggerated in terms of how fast it happened. In the movie, I go to the first day and I'm like this choir boy. I'm like, can't we make our clients money? And,
right.
And then next scene, I'm snorting coke in a strip club, right?
Yeah.
In reality, that was 2 years between those two events. Like I was really dedicated in the beginning. And it's a slow sort of, you lose your morality, not all at once. It's like tiny imperceptible steps. That was one thing. Other thing was this, it was one thing that's probably the most false about the movie is that as if we were actually trying to rip people off.
Okay.
Like we weren't like that was not the intent. Like why would even I was the worst person in the world, she understand the economics. You make a lot more when you make your clients money. We weren't trying to lose people money. They just lost money because it's freaking hard. It's Wall Street and people lose money.
Right.
And we were in that very risky part of the market. It was never an intention. Let's just go sell them crappy stocks so people lose money. Not at all. It was the opposite.
Okay.
We were trying to find great companies. But how hard is it to find good? Look what happened in the marijuana space in the last
It's exactly what we were just talking about.
So it's like every one of those was supposed to be a huge winner, and if they were winners, we'd make 100 times as much money. So like Steve Madden's shoes was my biggest winner I had. I made more in that one than all the others combined. So of course we weren't trying. Hey, let's just find crappy companies to get. I mean that's nonsense. So that was poorly explained. But I understand why they did it. Like in the movies, like and then we sell them the dog shit. Like as if that was.
But I like that you walked away from that movie. Like I didn't think you were a bad person. Like
Not at all.
They did a really good job of like.
Well, that's Marty's
Never
brilliance.
did you think the whole time like, man, he's a shitty guy at all. Like
There's the reasons for that. The reasons for that are because Marty is a brilliant director, and what Marty doesn't do is Marty doesn't moralize. He doesn't try to tell you how to feel.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate that when a movie tries to tell me how to feel. And they had Jordan killing a dog in there innocently. Then you hate, or Jordan rips off babies and because it wasn't true. Like what Marty did is he just said, "Here's what happened."
Yep.
You're going to see some things you love about this guy, some things you hate. You're going to root for him. You're going to want him to go down. You're going to feel bad. And you're going to see some of yourself in him. You're going to see some things. And you hold up a mirror to you and everybody in society. So Marty does not moralize. He tells stories the way they are. And people like that. That's why people connect with it. Because when someone, I literally will turn off a movie or a TV show that telegraphs a message to me that we want you to feel this way. I want to watch it and enjoy, make my own decision. So that's what you pick up there is that I was a flawed human being, a lot of talent, a lot of hard work, a lot of crazy, big mistakes, and
you said it though. There was a lot of hard work. Still,
yeah, of course,
no matter what.
And rise up, pick up your bootstraps, and generosity and fun, all the things. And people I think are also smart enough to know that people lose money on Wall Street. One of the most interesting things, the FBI agent who indicted me is a friend of mine now. And he was on my podcast. I interviewed him on my podcast. And he said to me when he interviewed the customers, most of the customers were like, no, we were trying to scam him as much as he was trying to scam us. Like they were rich people. And they were trying to get in and they were just as bad. Not all of them, many, especially. Sure. So then what happened was the big thing is that there's that demarcation line from when I left the firm. That's fictitious. That I'm staying. I didn't stay. But by the time before I left the firm, there was only rich people who were allowed to invest. It was very organized, and so people who lost money were very rich. It wasn't like that. After I left, it went off the rails, and I was no longer there. I wasn't in control of it. So I think that people
Who took it at that point?
that was Danny who was running it from till. So what happens? A lot of the guidelines I put up a lot of protections to make sure that average moms and pops were not allowed to invest.
Okay.
Not one. We didn't have not even one. So no one average lost money. They were rich people who lost money. And I felt better about that.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, I'll say it flat out. I'm not saying it was right, but it's a hell of a lot better than taking someone's last $10. Okay, no one got wiped out. It's just not true, and that's a fact. All right, and it was confirmed.
It never came out
by
like
the
that
FBI,
either.
confirmed by the FBI agent. But the point is, after I left, though.
Shit got
And shit got fucking crazy. And that happens a lot.
Stay going that
that's like when you shot down a drug cartel and then everyone's killing each other in the streets the next day because there's no law and order. You know?
That's it.
So
Pablo's gone.
Yeah, did it stay going that route? Like, are you friends with any of the original people?
I am. I'm friends with some of the original people. The ones that I was friends with before it happened, I'm still friends with. And some occasionally I run into. There's so many. There was
Crazy 'cause
so
it's just
many
another
people.
life. Like you're literally.
It's many lives ago, many wives ago. Yeah.
Many monies ago.
Many
too.
monies ago. Yeah. So.
But how great is it that? I mean, think of the alternative, and it's still good because of the fact that the movie, the book, all that came around, but you were already on your way doing something else.
Right.
It says a lot about you as a person
I think that's
how you control yourself and your destiny versus like sitting there just going, oh, fuck, I need this book. I need this movie. I need this.
I think that's kind of what I think one of the things that Marty realized and why he was so intent on rewriting the script after he saw what happened to my life. He's like, oh my God, this is the ultimate truth about like that, take all the guy's money away and just give it a few years and he's right back and he's still selling.
But do you think too that you obviously know how it was written on the first run. Do you think that maybe subconsciously or something in there, he was like, look at this guy now. I don't want to ruin him.
No. The first draft was really, it wasn't like that. First draft was phenomenal. It was no worse. It just was the truth at that time.
Gotcha. But then now he sees how you are now. He's like, we gotta flow this into who he is.
Yeah. And the funny part is I had a very different take on it. So like when the whole thing happened, they had rewritten the whole third act and they had that infomercial in there when I was teaching sales with the seminars and stuff like that, right? It's like they took my real life and they inserted that in the new third act. And what happened, though, they were looking for an ending. And Leo and I sat down. He goes, hey, Marty wants us to come up with a new ending because they didn't have a real ending. And then
you got to be blown away. Like, literally, I don't know. I get it. It's been your life and whatnot. But at that time, like, this is a whole other fucking story.
Yeah.
You with the
so we were sitting. I'll tell you exactly where we were.
Are you just sitting there going?
No, we were sitting in this. It was in the Soho House in L.A. and we were sitting there at the exact table, and we're going. It was Leo and I were just going back and forth, and I came up with an idea that Leo hated. It was I said, well, at the time I was doing a lot of charity work in Africa. And I was like, then I have all these videos where I was teaching kids about success. My assistant's laughing.
Gummies kicking in.
Gummies are definitely kicking in. Look at her. Yeah. Look at the eye.
Let's do a check on Ash.
Yeah, no, she's in a good spot.
Yeah. No, really, get a look
Ash,
at Ash.
how you doing, Ash?
There you go. That's all you need to say.
She ate a 10 milligram gummy bear. 23% THC.
No, 10.
Minus 10%.
It's only 10.
Okay.
It's only 10. Good job, Ash.
Good Ash. Yeah.
Every once in a while you hear.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so what happened was I had this idea about, hey, I'm doing all this charity work. And like, it was really important to me, the charity work. I was going to Africa a lot and teaching the kids in the jungles and the townships and teaching them how to live the jungles. It was crazy. And I made manuals for all these kids how to become little entrepreneurs and stuff. And Leo goes, it's too on the nose.
He's like, here, do this line.
I'm like, what the fuck?
It's too on. You're the wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
And the wolf devours. And then
tell me you're eating these little kids and shit over there in Africa.
And then like when they came up with this whole thing, and I was like, it's fucking great. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
It was a great idea. And I actually have a cameo at the end. So in the movie, I introduce in that final scene, I introduce myself. Like, I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Belfort, and it's me introducing Leo DiCaprio. So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. It was incredible. It was an incredible movie. It really was.
So now let's fast forward.
Yeah.
This is really interesting on this part now is you got your kids, everything's good, right? And And what are you doing now? Let's talk about today. Like, what are you doing?
Sure. So for the last, since about 2009, I've been going around the world. Or I used to go around the world. Now the world is closed, right? And I teach people and companies, sales techniques and advanced closing and entrepreneurship. And I have a system called the Straight Line, which is very, very effective.
Yeah.
And very empowering, and it changes people's lives. And I was doing that for many, many years. And then I started getting into the podcast space as well, and because it just seemed like a natural outgrowth for me to do that. And I started a podcast called The Wolf's Den, and that's amazing. And then I started another podcast called Sales School, which is every day, about 15, 20 minutes a day of me just teaching sales and really great stuff. And I think that, today, without, no bullshit, I think my life really is like the ultimate redemption story in the sense that, every single person that I touch, and I wouldn't say, here's the thing, every person I touch, I would say I try to make sure they get a better side of the value exchange. Like, I make sure every person's happy. You don't always succeed.
No,
because you can't. That's not, but I always try. And part of, I think, my ethos and, where I run my business is that I don't want to be doing things just to make money. I do things to give value to people. And I'm an expert at monetizing value. And that's what business is all about. So my, podcast is doing really well, growing each week. Listen, I've smoked my share of marijuana, but I'm not big into it, but I believe a lot in the CBD side of it. And
listen, you played me in there earlier. It's like, so tell me what it does, or is there this and that? And then he starts breaking all.
No,
he knows more than
that's the
anybody
type of person you are,
room.
huh? Whatever you look into, you're going to learn everything about.
Well, I have a degree in biochemistry, so that's
a big part.
Yeah, so I really love that stuff. So I know all about the receptors and at a very deep level because I enjoy it, even if I had never used it. But I started really getting into the marijuana space when Colorado first, went legal, right? And I went down and flew down there and viewed some big grow houses, and I decided not to get involved in it because I didn't think it was right for me. Because I figured that because of who I was, and it was still federally illegal, still today, but I just didn't think I was the right person to do it. So I just took a pass on that. And then that was phase one. Everyone was just like rushing in to get licenses. And then phase two is the stock scams. Yeah. And I watched all those stock scams happen, and I knew it was going to blow up. It was obvious that, it was just all air balls. And at the end of the day, you'd have a couple of companies that would survive, and that's what happens.
Were you enticed at all? Just because you know the industry, were you enticed at all to throw some in and just make a chunk and get out?
I refused. No, I refused to do it. I did not do it. Nope. And I had many opportunities to do it. I did not do it. And many opportunities, and I didn't. And I didn't want to do it because I didn't want. Because I know what would happen. I know that someone would write an article about it, and it would destroy my. I spent all these years redeeming my name and my brand, so I'm not going to do anything to bring negative scrutiny. And I'll still get some negative article written once in a while, but people.
Oh, it's better than a comeback.
Right, but people
second comeback.
Yeah, right. But people, the thing is, when someone writes negative stuff about me now, it's always about and 32 years ago, and then people smart. People are very smart these days.
They're always
they know about
social media opened up. I mean, the haters,
the news,
right?
And the news doesn't matter. The bad news doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like when bad news will come out about me, if it's just some stupid journalist, right? No one even cares. Yeah. It's like they just let, hey, whatever. Like it's like whatever. What about Trump? Like, people have this bigger fish to fry in the fake news game right now. So it's just like the whole world has really changed with that. So yeah, that's been the big thing. I think that now though I really believe we're at the point where what we've seen happening is the legitimate players have emerged now. Meaning the ones that actually have a real business, where they actually have a product, a brand, they are making money based on a legitimate margin, and they're building a long-term business that will be sustainable and grow. And ultimately, I believe there'll be a lot of consolidation when larger brands get in. Like, I think eventually you'll see when it becomes federally legal, you'll see very big companies get involved.
You're seeing the alcohol industry come in. PBR just came in and they did a drink in California with their name on it, which is the first one that I've seen. Most people partner up with different cannabis companies, but PBR came out with their name on a product.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely the next wave of it all, and I think that there's a tremendous opportunity. So I'm looking at the space closely right now, both CBD and the THC side of it, and we'll see if I find the right. I don't want to go into the space, but if I find the right strategic partner, we've been talking about stuff about what you guys do, and I think you guys are amazing. You have a great foothold on the industry, and we'll see. But I believe one thing I do believe for sure is I've firsthand seen and heard testimonials of people that have used marijuana for medicinal purposes
Absolutely.
and had amazing results.
Oh yeah, you can't can't get away from
You
that now.
cannot
Military.
deny.
I mean, he can
You
speak on.
cannot deny
That's
that.
part of the thing that we're doing is what George was talking about with our for-profit brand, Hellman Valley Growers Company. We have a nonprofit, and right now we have our first study design sitting with an institutional review board, and we'll be one of the first of our kind to do veteran medical cannabis research going after the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. And we talked to members of Congress, and they're like, if you can get that in American doctors and actually prove it, we got something to talk about. And it's going to change lives.
there's some epilepsy. That's just your cancer. Just a lot. I mean, it's undeniable. And it's really sad because I grew up in the era of reefer madness.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Where I was showed when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, they showed you this this commercial for this movie Reefer Madness, and someone takes it
Yeah.
they all fucking go crazy. The
wait,
eyeballs go up.
maybe that's the stuff that you smoke nowadays, but back then it was it was so weak.
Well,
But it's amazing. So I think
insane where it's coming or where it's come from and where it's going, and now you have the mesh of social media too.
Let's
and
check on Ashley.
Yep.
She's down.
Oh, she's-
Ashley is now
there.
on
Still
the-
got a smile on her
She's there.
face, though.
No, but she's now sideways, Ashley. Yeah. Ashley's head is down.
How do you like and what do you think of the social media now, the YouTube world and all that? Isn't it insane?
there she
the
is.
new era of
It's
actors. It's not actors and actresses. It's like YouTube has its own. I'm going to say again, like you were with Logan Paul, probably one of the greatest YouTubers right now.
Absolutely.
And it's like how do you connect with someone like that? How do you like?
Well, I mean, I know all the kids, the TikTokers, and Logan.
Yeah, it's
and-
the
and
TikTok, perfect
They've
example.
all seen the movie 8,000 times, so they were all. So it's a fun group. I think. Listen, I think that there's some things that I find.
Do you see a long term in that whole YouTube?
Well, I think one of the revelations that I've had in the last few years is that the digital world and the real world are one and the same.
Yeah.
In the sense that, why I never understood why people would sit there and spend money getting jewels and repowered supplies on video games and extra lives, but yet you're hitting those same neurotransmitters that get released in the real world when you go for gambling for jewels and fighting in real fights. So there's a whole side to this, the psychology side of it that in retrospect everything's always obvious. I don't think the world is a better place because of social media. I think it's a far worse place, but it's here to stay. And I think that that the opportunity it gives you to get your message out and your brand. You have all these insta famous people, and but there's a big difference between. So there's a lot of people. I had this talk with someone the other day about what does it really mean to be insta famous. So you have a lot of people that they might do something and get massive number of followers, but only a very, very small portion of them are able to actually monetize them.
Correct. Yes.
And
So not to stop you, you're familiar with TikTok.
Yeah.
Have you seen the latest on TikTok with this guy that was on the skateboard drinking the cranberry juice? Ashley? Okay. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
What
That was exactly what we were talking about right there.
So what is it?
So there's this guy on TikTok. He's a Mexican guy that lives in a trailer and posted. I'm going to pull it up real quick just so you can see it. He posted a video of him on a skateboard, and he's drinking cranberry juice, just riding down on a skateboard. And
It's up on the screen.
So
Yeah, that's good.
So this is the video. That's it. And he's just drinking ocean spray cranberry juice. This is it.
This is why I hate social media.
So no. So listen. So you laugh.
I mean,
You laugh until you see until you see this, which is, who's this guy? That's Mick Fleetwood. Imitating, that's his song.
How many views did that one guy have?
30 million.
Yeah.
Now, Ocean Spray, since then, pulls up to this guy's house, his trailer. They knock on the door, comes out. They bought him a brand new truck, gave him a lifetime supply of Ocean Spray. He just got picked up now by NASCAR. They're giving him the pace car, along with everything else this guy has done, just because of that. This just happened a month ago.
And did he have any followers before this or no?
Very few, because as soon as it came on, I saw it, and I was looking at some of his other stuff. Now you go back on the things that he would have like 150, 200 people, liked and whatever.
Well, I love that. That story I love.
It's great. It's great.
But I know why you hate it. I
Yes,
understand why you hate it.
Well,
So
I don't have TikTok, Instagram.
No.
That.
So like that, I love to hear a kid, someone like that that's living in a trailer, do something and have success. That's great. But I think what bothers a lot of people is not that kid doesn't bother me. That I think is wonderful. What bothers me is that people who now are doing that for a living. Let me just be an idiot for a living and try to get views by being an idiot. And
The partiers on TikTok.
like that stuff, I don't like that. That stuff to me is and
They're doing
again
the stupid pranks and all the
it's not so much even. It's like how do I explain it? So listen, you can't argue with success,
Right.
But I think part of true success is, does it make the world a better place, and does it give value of any kind? And to me, a lot of the stuff that I see is really just negative.
If you go into his, and this is what's great about this, and
This is different, yeah.
I really love this story. I've gone through and watched. He's a guy. Ocean Spray went and said, "Hey, this is from us to you for keeping it real. That we're able to do this,
Right.
But just for being positive energy." And when you go back through any of his TikToks, it's before he ever hit this, he was doing the same thing. It was another day of him just having fun.
Right.
And the same thing when you go back through any of his stuff, he's just positive. He's singing songs. He's doing fun stuff. He's not even trying to be famous.
Right.
He's just doing his shit. He lives in a trailer.
Like for example, like the Kardashians, right?
God, don't even
fuck.
get me started on that. Whatever.
Back to
So like with the Kardashians, you could hate them, right? You could hate them, but they're smart.
Oh no, they're smart. They're smart.
They are smart.
Their mom is really smart.
You don't get to stay in the line like that by being an idiot.
Nope.
Anyone can get
No,
famous.
it's definitely not a hate.
Anyone can get famous for a second, but to maintain it like they've maintained it, to me, is where I give them kudos. So
Yeah.
what I don't like is this sort of what can we do next to be relevant sort of thing, but again, I listen. I don't begrudge anyone's success. I wish the world rewarded people more for doing things that were cooler than that. But hey, it's the world we live in.
What about your kids?
What about them?
How are they with? I mean, now you're at that they're at those ages.
Yeah.
Like this is my dad, and
Yeah.
they've seen what you've gone through, and this isn't all roses.
I'm very fortunate. I have really great kids. I do. I have 3 kids altogether, 2 biological, 1 step, and my daughter's the oldest. She's 27 now, and she's just got her passed her test to be a psychologist. She graduated from NYU grad school psychology. She's brilliant and amazing. Loves her edibles and stuff like that, and she
Just as
she asked me. I told her.
we now know that
I told
clearly
her
Ashley loves her edibles.
I told her I was here.
Oh, one
and
of
she's
them.
like, "Dad, you better bring me back a goodie bag."
Oh, don't worry. Yeah, she's covered on that.
That's the first thing she said. I'm not making it up. I said, "I'm telling you, look, hold on, I'll show you. Let's see."
And you said she's 27?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Here she is. Hold on. Grab us some goodies.
Well, I hate to break it to you. What's your daughter's name?
Chandler.
Okay, Chandler. Listen, Ashley ate one of them. So you're missing out. No, so there. It's great to look at this and go, your kids have gone through this with you, and it's not one of those things where people are going, "Oh, fuck, there's Belfort's kids, there's this and that," and so they've got to be super proud.
Yeah, my kids are doing great, and my two other boys work for me, and they're both really talented, hard workers. Really.
Oh, they work with you?
Yeah, we work together. Yeah.
Your son was supposed to come down here.
Yeah. He's just busy right now. But
How old are they?
26 and 25 and 24.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think the reason that they're all so normal is that both my ex-wife and I, we never fought, we never used the kids. We always were very amicable and stuff in terms of just the relationship with the kids. And whenever I see kids in the middle of a terrible divorce where the kids are being used as pawns, it's just so destructive.
Yeah.
And she never did that. And my next wife with the third kid. We just, together or not, the kids are the kids, and we always never let that, become
Support
part of
that side of it.
Yeah. So I'm lucky.
I mean, I'm fortunate too. I have all my kids are working. I have 2 in Michigan, and my business partner here.
There you go.
And so yeah, it's amazing. I always wonder, when you have scenarios like this and situations and a lifestyle that you've had and how you're growing now, and it's how are the kids doing with that side of it?
I mean, they're proud. I mean, I hope they're proud. I mean, I think they've watched me do a lot of great stuff, and we have a great relationship. So I'm lucky.
So now, Wolf Den, what's the plan?
Wolf Den is my basic podcast once a week where I have all types of different guests on. So it's a kind of potpourri of some people in business, entrepreneurs, some famous people, some politics is on there as well, all different types. And then I now have the second one, which is Sales School, which is a different podcast, just purely sales related.
I just started watching that.
And then I'm also about to launch the Wolf of Wall Street podcast, The Untold Stories, like a documentary podcast.
Very good. We got a head start on right now.
Yeah, so that's coming next. And
Who does that take place with? Is that just yourself?
That's gonna be with actors and everything. A scripted podcast, actually. Yeah,
Oh, really?
Much higher production. And then also I'm looking to do a podcast where I talk about finance for young people. Like how do you make sure financial empowerment for young people? So I want to probably find the right co-host. Probably looking for a female in our early to mid 20s, very smart. Hopefully, attractive is important these days for the social media stuff. But I want someone that's really smart, that understands finance. Because I think that kids need to know about that stuff, or else they're gonna get taken to the cleaners. And it's about financial empowerment.
Oh,
So you're sitting here talking about this stuff, and it's funny because your life, as people have kind of seen it in the past, a little bit has been in there, like you had said, this guy's fucking taking money from people and this and that. And the actuality is that it's totally the opposite. And
I'm the most legitimate. I am by far the most legitimate businessman. I really am these days.
Right.
People hate me for it. So sometimes people will say to me, like, my ex-wife's like, "Why are you so legit? Like you never cut." Seriously, you let people take advantage.
That's pretty good if your ex-wife say that.
No, my wife say that. I don't understand. You never. You're like everything you do, it's always ethics. Because I think that for someone like me, it's got to be that way. I really do. I think when you get a second chance at the level I've got one, and it's built on a redemption, so you have to, you want to protect that, and also it's also just makes me feel good. I like doing it. It's not even. I like doing it. I enjoy it. So it's the way I live today, and I still have a lot of fun, make a ton of money, and I don't think making a lot of money and maintaining ethics are mutually exclusive. You can do both.
Yeah, I think that's the truth on a lot of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, we've kind of built that, our company is based off that. I know in the beginning, when we first started, it was that way. There's your co-host right there.
Ashley,
you know what she
asleep.
said? She actually said, I'm not going to feel anything. Oh, she was just tired. It was a long drive. Long drive.
I mean, as you sit right now, happiness. Do you feel happier than before? Like, do you feel like you're in a good place and where you're at financially, life, all that?
Yeah, financially, yes. Relationship wise, yes. It's difficult. COVID makes it difficult. I have a girlfriend who was from a different country. It's challenging right now.
Yeah.
What country?
Argentina.
Okay.
And so we got locked down together, which was great. And then, but now she's supposed to come back tonight. She's probably in the air right now as we speak. She's coming back finally. So, but that's difficult. It's very difficult because, I was just in Brazil last week and I couldn't even see her because if she left and then came back, she'd have 2 weeks of quarantine.
Yeah.
So it's just the whole thing is very complicated. But overall, I think that I have moments when I'm very, very happy. And I have moments when I say to myself, there's still something more. There's one more amazing experience I'm waiting for right now because I have all this amazing stuff going on. I'm doing so well financially. And I'm waiting for one more really exciting thing to come along that's going to really get my juices flowing. And we'll see what that is.
Yeah, I mean, in a different way, that's what I was getting at is relating to that. I mean, we're growing. We became where money wasn't an issue. We've sold our company. We've done those kind of things. And, you get to a point where it's like, what is that piece that's missing? Something like
I will never stop working. I'll never stop working.
Right.
Like there's no.
I think people stop working because they hate what they do.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I don't know
but a
any
lot
other
of people
way.
also think like, oh, you have all this money, you can do whatever you want.
It's not true.
Yeah, it's not even.
I hate being. You know what I hate with anything? Being bored. I hate doing nothing. I absolutely hate when I'm doing nothing. I'm like seething. It's like. I want to come up with some idea to do something amazing, like, not just for the money, just for I like building things as much as making money. Making ideas come to life,
too.
So it's
I can't even stop thinking of like ideas and packaging and things like to go do. Like it's a problem of mine.
That's what intrigues me, like about business. When I say about going into
something gets done, I'm like, okay, what's the next thing?
There you go. I think we're similar like that.
So from previous to now. What do you miss? Like if you take that lifestyle that you had that got you
I miss my kids. I miss my kids. I miss having like kids that are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I miss those days. I miss the soccer games.
I'm going through it right now. I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Wait till like that's not the fun times for me.
No, not
6 to 16, but well, not 16. 6 to 12.
I was gonna say, those teenage years. That's
fucking 14. Over 14 is a disaster. My son was like gave me agita, like you have no idea. Right now he's amazing, right? But there's like, I feel like I missed the one thing I look back on with regret. If there's one regret I have, it's that I missed a bunch of those years. And there was like a 5-year gap where I really was just so tied up with probably a 7-year gap where I was so consumed with my problems that I kind of missed those years.
Yeah.
I could not enjoy those years. And I guess that's the price I paid for the mistakes balance I made. But the comeback was so extraordinary for me that I guess that, it all makes sense now. But I would still say that I missed that.
Maybe it gave you something that you never would have had, now working with your sons.
So I just remember those, you remember the drives to the soccer games, right? Like
hockey.
And right? It's like I was the worst parent, yelling and screaming at the side, like,
oh fuck, no,
the goalie's a hologram, get him out of there,
I ended up being the coach that was getting kicked out of the ring.
Doesn't surprise me, right? Yeah. So like I missed that. That's kind of the only stuff that I really kind of wish I still. But the grandkids will come soon enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I have my grandkids there. We have kids together. I've got working on some more coming.
Yeah,
actually.
My new partner, my new girlfriend wants to have children, so we'll see what happens.
How old is she?
31.
Okay,
nice.
And how old are you?
58.
Okay, so we're in the same boat. Mine's 25. I'm getting married in 2 weeks in the Bahamas.
Nice.
Yeah, and straight. She's Mexican.
Okay.
So there's probably a good.
Mine's Argentinian.
I don't know. What do you think? 10, 12 kids coming out.
Good input back there.
Yeah.
She's on top of it.
Thanks, Ashley. So it is kind of cool to go through these phases and we're similar, age and whatnot, but to be able to have your kids and I get what you're saying. Going through that phase, I'd done kind of nothing close to you. Business wise, when you're really trying and you're working, you do miss out. But I can tell you this, that I wouldn't give it up for the world of where I'm at today. And with my kids and
no regrets. Just you could always look back and say, hey, maybe if so.
Maybe one lewd less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Jordan, one thing that I was really impressed reading about was your straight line hiring and you working with veterans, like on 100% scholarship.
Yeah.
Could you talk about a little bit, just like some success stories, maybe how some of the veterans out there could get in touch with you?
Got a great one today. In fact, we have a veteran working in Dallas that just right before on the way here that's doing phenomenally well. But I have a company so I noticed a big gap in the market with sales trainings, what I always did, but also companies that were looking to grow and hire salespeople. So I actually, I was the guy they always called in to fix the broken sales force. And I realized the best way to fix it is to make sure that the right people get hired in the first place, and also to make sure they show up trained before they get there. So I started a recruiting company called Straight Line Hiring. It's been really successful, and we find quality salespeople. We train them and then deliver them trained to all sorts of different companies. And the veterans is something I just felt, wow, what a great thing, an opportunity for people that are getting out of the service, are looking for a job to enter, out of military into traditional society.
Sure.
So we're working with some of the different services to do that. And we give them all scholarships. It doesn't cost them a thing to get trained, so it's pretty cool.
No, that's great. I'd love to send people your way.
As many as you want. We could always get them, and they make the best salespeople, by the way.
That's a great point. Well, Jordan, to your point.
Because they're you say, you got a cold call.
Kill you.
Cold calls. I was getting shot at last week. It's not so bad.
And it's great, too, because I always tell people in the military getting out, I'm like, you were already selling. They're like, selling what? I'm like, you have to sell a mission. You got to sell up above, and you got to sell to your people below you. And so now we're talking about money. We're talking about lives on the line. So if you can get through that, make decisions with bullets going over your head.
There you go.
All of them should be okay.
Do you find that? Do you have a belief that everybody can sell? They just need to have the right tools to sell, or do you?
Anyone could sell if they have the desire to learn to sell. Some people don't have the desire. So if they have the desire, yes. Some people are obviously have more natural talent. That talent gap can be closed with training using the straight line, but it's about desire. If they have the desire and they're willing to do the work, they can also.
So with the motivational side that you're putting in there, plus the training,
the motivation is sort of like is that warm bath. It feels really good, but doesn't really do that much. The training is the side that really takes. But when you can combine motivation and training together, it's a very powerful combination. So I always do both.
You're passionate about that.
Yeah. I love doing it. It's something that comes easily to me. I've always loved it. And I'm sure we'll be doing it for the rest of my life,
There you go.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Wow. Ashley, you got anything you want to add to that? That was
deep insight again from Ashley.
You guys see her?
Ashley's eyes are no longer opening now. She's answering with her eyes closed.
She's just like waving, like, yeah.
Literally, 45 minutes ago, she said, it's not going to be anything. I'll be fine. It'll be nothing. So
that's incredible.
Well, listen, I got to thank you.
My pleasure.
Because, this is a big deal for all of us, as I'm sure you know, and just the fact that we had Ashley here today was amazing in itself, and I don't think we'll see Ashley down there in the facility grabbing up too much stuff. But
well, so thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you, and we're looking forward to doing a lot of stuff with you. And Tommy will put everything up as far as what's needed for you to get that side of it. But other than that, man,
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Awesome
Thanks, guys.
time. Great meeting.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Once again,
Thanks, buddy.
PV Unfiltered.
Take care of that later.
Like, subscribe. It helps us to have these guys come on. We don't ask for anything other than that. And peace.
It's you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know.